What's going on, guys? Chandler here. So this is going to be my new segment on my YouTube channel called First Listen Review that is taken from my $5 tier full album reactions. So I react to the entire album, and then at the very end I give my overall thoughts and initial thoughts and a score on the album as a whole. So again, if you do like what you see and want to support the channel going forward, head over to patreon.com/ChandlerBurtonEntertainment. This is exclusive to the $5 tier. Again, you get a full album reaction, review, and a whole bunch of other perks as well if you guys are interested. And again, there's always a link down below in the description and in the pinned comment. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy the review, and thank you all so much for watching. Alright, my friends, so as you can see, the lighting in my room's a little bit different. The first part of the video I shot at like 7:30, and now it's like 10:30, so the lighting's a little bit different. My hair's also a little bit different because I was wearing a beanie because it was really cold outside, so apologize about that. I had to go to a work meeting, so I just wanted to get that first part done before I did the reaction. So, again, Periphery V, Djent Is Not a Genre. Been looking forward to this album. This actually was one of my most look forward to albums this year. The first two songs we've already heard, which is Wildfire and Atropos, I believe that's how you say it. I've done a reaction to both of these songs, but I will say for Wildfire, I have not seen the music video because, again, when they dropped Wildfire, it was just the official visualizer, and then the day after they dropped the music video. So I have not seen the music video to this yet, so it'll be fun to watch. So again, the first two songs I've already heard. It's only 9 songs, but again, these songs are so long, it makes it a 69-minute album. Nice. So, without wasting any more time, let's pop it off. Periphery V, Djent Is Not a Genre. Let's pop it off in 3, 2, and...
A few moments later.
Holy mother of Moses, dude. That outro did not need to be that long. I mean, seriously, that song could have ended like 4 minutes ago. It was a good song, but they could have cut it off 4 minutes ago. I hate starting off with the negative because overall, I really enjoyed this album. I definitely have some pros and I have some cons. So let's go in and break it down. My first listen review is coming up next, so stick around for that. All right, my friends. So again, we just got done jamming Periphery's new album, Periphery V, Djent Is Not a Genre, which again, I just absolutely love that name. It just cracks me up. I think it's really, really clever. But overall, man, I really enjoyed this, dude. I think I still prefer Periphery 3, which is my favorite Periphery album. So I'm going to say that's still my favorite. But this one was a really solid listen. So let's go ahead and break it down through the pros, the cons. I'll give you my top 3 songs, and I'll give you a score at the very end. So let's go ahead and kick in with the pros here. I'd say pro number 1 is that there are some really long songs on this album. There were a few times where they dragged a little bit here, but I actually think that the pacing of the longer songs are better than the short songs. Like, you know, Everything Is Fine, Silhouette, Dying Star, those shorter songs. Like, I felt like actually, like, the longer songs were, like, better paced, had more interesting momentum in the songs. There was a few times in the songs where, like, okay, we need to wrap this up because the outro was a little too long. But overall, man, I thought the long songs were really good, and that's coming a lot from me, especially from a guy who doesn't really like long songs. So the long songs were good, and they didn't overstay their welcome. I thought that was really, really cool. I also got to give a huge shout out to Spencer. He is a vocalist machine. The way he can hit those high notes, those growls, the mid screams, like he can do everything. He's been doing this for so long that he must have found some kind of technique to like really just take his voice and just do whatever he can with it here, because like obviously the instruments in this band there's so many moving parts in it, but Spencer's voice is an instrument, and it's a necessity to this band. Like, it's very important. Without Spencer, without anyone else, this band just would not shine like the way they do now. So again, huge shout out to Spencer for making this a wonderful vocal performance throughout the entire album. Just absolutely fantastic. I would also say this album had a lot of pop elements in it, but it worked. Like Silhouette, for example, and Dying Star really felt like The Weeknd, but if it just had like Djent riffs. It was, especially on Dying Star. And I actually really like that. It kind of broke up kind of a little bit the monotony of the album a little bit here, because it does get a little bit repetitive, which we will talk about in the cons here. But overall, man, in my personal opinion, when they had those pop elements, it really just kind of let the album breathe a little bit. And I really enjoyed those elements on the album. I thought that was really, really cool. And then I would say one of the biggest things that this album just oozes creativity. Like I went back to look at my playlist from last year of my top 10 albums of 2022. Dude, nothing comes even close to the creativity that Periphery was able to put out in this one album. So again, everything they were able to do, all the cool noises, all the cool guitar work, the sweeps, the vocals, like it was so creative in its own right, and I just thought that was really cool. So a couple of cons that I do have with the album here. I would say number one, kind of weird for me to say, but I actually, as I said in the beginning, like in my pros, that I think the shorter songs actually struggle a little bit more than the longer songs, because I think Periphery is just so used to making longer songs, and they're kind of just like, we need to have a couple of songs on here that are a little bit shorter in length. But as much as I do love those songs, and Everything Is Fine is one of my favorite songs on the album, I just felt like it kind of struggled a little bit. As much as I love the pop elements and as much as I love like everything they put into it, I'm like, I don't know, the shorter songs felt longer than the longer songs. And it's kind of weird for me to say, but I felt like those ones were kind of the weaker points of the album. Like the longer songs were definitely the standout for me personally here. And I will say, this is going to be kind of a devil's advocate kind of thing. If you already like Periphery, you're gonna love this album, okay? Like, you're gonna love everything about this here. But again, if you're like brand new to this album, like there's nothing like some people may think there's nothing new here, and that's, I kind of get both sides of it here. Because again, if you're a Periphery fan, you're gonna love it. But if you're listening to it as like just a casual listener, like, oh, a new band dropped a new album like Periphery did, you may listen to it and be a little turned off. You're like, how's this different than any other like album in the genre? And I completely get it. So again, devil's advocate here, I think it's gonna turn off some people, because again, it is a little bit long. But again, some people may think like it's not as revolutionary as a lot of people say it is. I personally really enjoy it, but I just want to throw that out there for some people. And then I will say, after a little while, some of the songs do get a little bit redundant and a little bit repetitive, like especially with like the, obviously on Wildfire, when we first heard it, that really cool piano section that was spreaded throughout the entire album, and I was like, Periphery is like really creative, so when you hear something kind of repeated over and over, you're kind of like, okay, maybe they could have done something a little bit different here. The piano interludes were cool, and I love the way the piano sounds, but it's like, it got kind of predictable at some points. Even though the songs has a lot of moving parts in them, there's still a little bit that's a little bit predictable, and I won't say the structure the same, but just predictable moments on some of the songs, particularly with some of the interludes that they have within a lot of the songs. Top 3 favorite songs from this album. I'm going to say number 1 is Wildfire, just kicking off the gate here. I know it was a single, but this song really drew me back into Periphery, because I haven't listened to them in a while, and so when they announced this new album, I went back and listened to a lot of their other material, and I still really, really enjoy this band. It's just like all their songs are super long, so it's hard for me to kind of get into it all the time, but I do appreciate their craft, and Wildfire was a perfect example for me of like just high octane riffs, great singing, just in your face, and I absolutely loved that. I thought it was just a fantastic song, definitely one of my favorites on the album. I'd also say, as I mentioned earlier, is that Everything Is Fine was a really fun song. It was really groovy, it was really heavy, it was a shorter song, but I think that was the best one of the shorter songs, just really intense and in your face. I really, really enjoyed that. And then my last favorite song was actually Drackle Gross, or however you say it here. That song is the longest song on the album, and honestly, I kind of started off going like, it started off pretty cool, but I was like, I'm kind of losing interest a little bit because it's just really long. But then it came back with that horror element of him singing like kind of like it's a scary movie, and I'm like, that's really, really cool. And that's what I mean by Spencer using his voice as an instrument, be able to portray that kind of sound. That song was super sick. I really, really enjoyed that song. Those are the top 3 favorite songs from this album here. But again, overall, I really enjoyed the album. And man, I really enjoyed this album. It definitely had moments in there for me where I was like, dude, this is definitely some of the highlights of Periphery's career. And then there's some moments where I was like, man, the outro's a little bit too long. Again, some of the interludes are a little bit redundant, but they still sound cool. I like the piano, but just a little bit redundant and repetitive. And overall, though, man, I really enjoyed it. I think the song has really cool moments in it. I think the musicianship in this band is fantastic. I think they put together a wonderful record. It sounds great. I mean, it's very polished and very fresh. Again, like if you're already a fan of Periphery, you're gonna love this album. Give it a 10 out of 10. Periphery has like a really kind of cool following where it's like, If you're a dedicated fan, you're gonna love everything they put out. But again, like, if you listen to it for the first time, some people may be turned off by it here. Again, I would recommend Periphery 3. Like, that's where I mean, I love their other stuff, but I don't know, for some reason, Periphery 3 was more accessible for me, and I think it would be to a lot of people, in my personal opinion. So overall, man, I'm not disappointed in this album at all. I'm gonna give it a pretty high score, but again, it's not like the most, it's a crazy album, but not like crazy like, oh my gosh, I think it's gonna change the game. But it's a very enjoyable album all the way through. I'm giving Periphery 5, Djent Is Not a Genre, an 8.5 out of 10. Again, so many cool moments in there. Again, a little bit redundant within some of the songs, but overall, man, this was a stellar listen, especially for 9 songs, and it's a 69-minute album. Nice. I had a really good time listening to this album.